My name is Ethan. I was 29 years old when I moved into my late grandfather's house, shortly after my separation. I didn't move there because I wanted to. I moved there because I had no other option. The house was located 10 minutes outside a small Alabama town, surrounded by thick woods and empty land. No neighbors, no streetlights, no noise. During the day, it felt peaceful. At night, it felt like something was watching the house breathe. The building itself was old. The floors creaked even when no one walked on them. The doors never closed properly unless you forced them shut. And no matter how high I turned the heater, the air inside stayed cold. For the first 7 nights, nothing happened. On the 8th night at exactly 1:14 in the morning, I heard whistling outside. It wasn't a song. It wasn't even a melody. Just broken notes, slow and uneven, drifting through the trees behind the house. I froze. At first I convinced myself it was an animal, or maybe someone passing through the woods. But deep down, I knew animals didn't whistle like that. The sound lasted less than a minute. Then it stopped. The next night, at nearly the same time, it happened again. This time it was closer. I turned on the porch light and looked outside. Nothing moved. No shadows, no figures. When I stepped onto the porch with a flashlight, the whistling stopped instantly, like whoever was making the sound knew I was listening. From that night on, it became routine. Every single night, between 1:10 and 1:20, the whistling returned. Always outside, always close. I stopped sleeping. After 4 nights of this, I called the local sheriff's office. An older deputy came by the next afternoon. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he went quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made my chest tighten. He told me my grandfather had made similar calls years earlier. Same sound, same time, same months. According to him, my grandfather had complained about someone moving around the property at night, someone he could never see. That night I searched the attic. I found several notebooks tucked inside an old trunk. They belonged to my grandfather. Inside, he had written about the whistling. He believed someone was watching the house. After my grandmother died, he slept with a loaded firearm beside his bed. A few entries ended abruptly, as if he had been interrupted mid-sentence. A week later, the sound moved closer. One night, it came from near the shed. Another night, from the side of the porch. Then, one night, I heard it coming from beneath the house, from the crawl space. The sound echoed through the vents, like someone standing directly below the floor. I grabbed a shotgun and sat in the living room waiting. At 1:17 in the morning, the whistling started again. This time, it came from inside the house, from the hallway. I stood up and turned on the light. Nothing was there. 2 nights passed without a sound. I thought it was over. On the 3rd night, I heard 3 slow knocks from the back door, from inside the house. Before I could react, the hallway light turned off by itself. At the end of the hall, a figure stood completely still, dark clothing, pale face. When I shouted, the figure ran. The footsteps were heavy, far heavier than I expected. The next morning, the front door was unlocked. Nothing was missing. Nothing was broken. The deputy returned later that day. He suggested I change the locks. Then he quietly said, "Or leave." He told me someone out there had known that house longer than I had. I moved out that week. The property was sold months later. I live in a city apartment now, but sometimes very late at night, when everything goes quiet, I hear whistling outside my window. Same broken notes, still uneven, still too close. My name is Daniel Harper. I'm 32 years old. Until recently, I did not believe in ghosts or anything supernatural. Horror does not begin with screams. Real horror begins with silence. The kind of silence that makes you feel watched, even when nothing is moving. This is not a ghost story, this is not fiction, this is something that happened to me, and I still don't have an explanation. I moved into that house because the rent was unusually cheap. It was located at the edge of the town. There were no nearby houses. There were no streetlights, only trees, and an uncomfortably quiet road. The locals never asked questions. They only said one thing: lock your doors at night. I didn't take it seriously. At that time I believed fear was imaginary. The first week was normal, nothing strange, nothing unusual, but during the second week something changed. There were no sounds, no footsteps, no movement, yet the house no longer felt empty. It felt occupied, as if something was present. Quietly, watching. At first I didn't notice the pattern. The second night I felt it. The third night I was sure. Every night at exactly 1:58 a.m. My bedroom door made a sound. Not opening, not closing, just pressure, as if someone was standing on the other side, with their hand resting on the door, waiting. I checked the locks. I checked the windows. Everything was secure. I told myself it was an old house. Wood expands, houses make noise. That's what people always say. But something about the sound felt wrong. It wasn't random. It was patient. One night I decided I needed proof. Before going to bed, I placed my phone on the table. I turned on audio recording. Lights off, door locked. I stayed awake, listening. At exactly 1:58 a.m., the sound returned. Then something else appeared. Breathing. Slow. Controlled. Very close. It was not mine. I stopped breathing completely. The next morning I played the recording. At first there was silence. Then, exactly at 1:58 a.m., the breathing started, and then I heard a voice. Not loud, not angry, calm, almost familiar. "You're awake tonight." I froze, because I remembered clearly. I never replied. But the recording continued. There was a pause. Then the same voice spoke again. "Good. You're learning." That night I didn't sleep. I sat on my bed with the lights on. The door was locked. At 1:58 a.m., the door handle moved. Once, twice. Then it stopped. From the other side, a whisper. "You don't need to hide anymore." That was the moment I understood, whatever this was. It wasn't trying to scare me, it was already comfortable. It had been there longer than I had. The next day I called the police. They searched the house. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no evidence of anyone else, only the audio recording on my phone. When they reached the final seconds, they stopped talking, because at the end of the recording, my breathing overlaps with another breath, and then the voice says, "Now you understand. This house was never yours. I no longer live in that house, but here is the part that still keeps me awake, even now, whenever I am alone." At exactly 1:58 a.m., I sometimes hear breathing behind me, and I never turn around, because some things, once noticed, cannot be ignored, and some things were never outside to begin with.